So, should you be cancelling your trip right now? Because if you've been following the news, it genuinely looks pretty scary.
There has been real panic about jet fuel shortages.
There's a war in the Middle East, fuel prices are going through the roof, airlines are cancelling routes.
You don't want to book something and then have it cancelled.
And some countries are literally rationing petrol. I get why you'd be sitting there wondering whether to just not go. But here's the thing, we are actually here right now. We've just been traveling through Kerala in India, through Sri Lanka, and also we are in the Philippines. And what we saw on the ground was kind of complicated, sometimes worse than we expected, but mostly very different from what the headlines are telling us. So I guess first we wanted to talk about what we have personally experienced with all of this going on. And the first moment that we kind of felt, not worried, but we kind of noticed things were a little bit different. We were actually traveling through the south of India in a small town called Varkala.
India's LPG crisis is now hitting restaurants and hotels across the country. And the impact is already being felt in kitchens, eateries, and even transport systems.
And we'd heard of the fuel crisis and everything, but we hadn't really seen it firsthand yet. And I think the first moment that we started to wonder if this was going to impact our further travels, because we had Sri Lanka and the Philippines coming up, was when we were sitting in a restaurant and they actually handed us new printed menus.
The gas that they use to cook is running a little low because of the war, so they're very low on supplies, and this is all we could get from the menus.
The thing was, in India, actually they have a lot of oil, but they don't have gas. They get gas imported from overseas. A lot of that has been stocked, so they not only can't get enough gas, but also the gas prices have gone up a lot.
This is the largest oil supply disruption in recorded history.
That was the first time that we felt it. And then when we were on that trip, we were actually getting a couple of messages from friends and things like that, warning more specifically about the Philippines, because they are a more poor country. The resources there, I think, when they are reduced, it can get just a bit more scarce.
So what we found out later was that India imports more than half of its cooking gas from the Gulf, so like Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia. And so once Iran blocked the main shipping route, the supplies all dried up fast. So restaurants were all rationing, some were switching to firewood. It was genuinely affecting people's livelihoods, so not just our dinner options.
But I think as a tourist, this is not a reason to not go. Like, it's not like our trip was massively impacted. It was a couple of menu items that weren't available. And in the whole scheme of things, it did not really affect us.
When we got to Sri Lanka, it was a little more interesting because we were told that it was much more dire in Sri Lanka and that things would be way more expensive. And I think for locals, that is 100% true. When we arrived there, to be honest, nothing much had changed for a tourist. The prices of tuk-tuks increased a little bit, but it was marginal in terms of the tuk-tuks are so cheap anyway. And if we have to pay an extra 100 or 200 Sri Lankan rupees, then it doesn't really affect you too much.
Another time that we did notice the petrol situation was when we hired our own car in Hungama and drove to Aragon. So this was about a 6-hour drive one way and then one back, and we pulled into a petrol station to get some fuel and tried to pay with cash, and they asked us if we had the QR code on our phone. So this was essentially something that you had to have to monitor the amount of fuel that you were, I guess, buying or using up weekly. We didn't have that, so we actually didn't know what it was.
Yeah, and later on, after a bit of research, we realised that people who live in Sri Lanka actually have to register how much they're using. But for tourists, they have other rules. So they really want the tourism to thrive, and it's been a struggle for Sri Lanka to get the tourism to the point where it needs to be because of a whole lot of issues, and this being, another one under their belt. So what they don't want to do is limit how far tourists can travel or how freely they can travel. So if you catch buses, if you drive your car, actually you're going to be fine as a tourist.
But we definitely did hear some of the locals commenting how reduced, I guess, the tourism was in a number of places. They said that people had cancelled their trips and there were a lot less people moving through than usual, which I guess would be expected. We did feel that a little bit, like there were less people, there were less crowds, which is a little bit nicer sometimes.
Yeah.
Although it does affect Sri Lanka and the tourism, it was kind of nice being able to go to restaurants and not have to queue up, or just less people being around. So I guess silver lining, but also like not good for the Sri Lankan tourism. So by the end of our Sri Lankan trip, we were still tossing up between yes or no to the Philippines. In all honesty, we weren't sure if we should go or not. We were meant to come to Siargao for a full month, but we decided to still go because we still had our ticket as well. We would have lost a lot of money if we had have cancelled that, but we just decided to reduce our time here. So we covered ourselves essentially, I guess, to say, you know, if something does go wrong, if flights are cancelled and we can't somehow get out, maybe just 2 weeks here would be better than a month. And so far, so good. Although our flight out was cancelled already.
Yeah.
So I booked it maybe 5 days ago. And like the day after I booked it, I got a email saying already that it had been cancelled and I needed to get on another flight or completely get a refund. So they are still changing things, you know, day to day, and things are, you know, happening quite quickly. We were lucky enough to be able to get a refund, and then I just booked another flight out. But just be cautious, I guess, of having the flexibility to change dates if you have to in your schedule, because they're still not filling flights completely, and I'm guessing that was a reason why they were cancelled. Another thing that we did notice with the Philippines is that the internal flights have gotten a lot more expensive. So we flew into Cebu and we caught a plane from Cebu to Siargao, which was like a 50-minute plane. When I looked that price up maybe 3 months ago, it was about $100 cheaper per person than it is now, and I waited a little too late to book that, so we did have to pay a little bit more. So the internal flights, because of fuel, have increased. Flights are changing daily, and yeah, you just need to be and have the flexibility for your schedule to work around that.
Now, honestly, I'm pretty thankful that we did shorten our trip to just the 2 weeks, because some of the stuff coming out online is a little bit alarming. The IATA, which is a global airline industry body, has warned that jet fuel shortages could start biting aviation in Asia more seriously around June. PAL is already cutting some of its May capacity, so if you are planning a Philippines trip in the next few months, you do need to stay across your airline updates.
But honestly, when it's come down to it, the warnings are far more scarier than the reality on the ground. And now that we're here, everything seems pretty damn fine. And well, we're hoping to get out of here next Tuesday. So make sure you subscribe for an update. But yeah, all in all, we haven't really been impacted that much, but beside like a simple flight switch.
So based on everything we've experienced and everything we've read, we're going to give you 7 tips on what to do. So number 1 is don't let the headlines make the decision for you. Do your own research, contact your airlines directly, check if the flights are still running, or ask people who are on the ground. You can even DM us on Instagram. We might be in the area and can let you know what we've experienced.
Yeah, for sure. We had a lot of people message us when we were in Sri Lanka just asking us simply what the crisis was like there. So we were able to tell them firsthand, and it just gives them peace of mind. So yeah, don't cancel your trip because of the news. That's the biggest thing. Do your research first. Tip number 2 is that if you are going to book your flights, if you have a trip coming up, book them now, because the international flights are up around 42% since the war has started. Again, we've experienced this firsthand within the Philippines, but also we're going to Europe, and I waited like 3 weeks to book our Europe trip, and I think they went up like $500 each as well. Definitely just book now, and I would also recommend booking with it is a bit more expensive, but book with the flexibility of being able to cancel your trip and also get a refund.
Number 3 is try and avoid the Gulf if you can. Dubai, Doha, Abu Dhabi, these are all big Middle Eastern hub airports that a lot of long-haul flights connect through, and honestly it's just one with potentially higher risks. Like, you don't want to be flying into an area where there's an active war zone.
Our friend B was actually coming to meet us in Sri Lanka all the way from Toronto, and originally her flight was flying through Abu Dhabi. She called up her airline and just explained the situation. They cancelled it. She got a refund straight away. She booked through Cathay Pacific instead, went through Hong Kong, and was all fine. So just for that peace of mind, we would recommend just, you know, finding another route. Yeah,
and some of the major hubs that you go through are like Singapore, Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, and Hong Kong, like B did.
Tip number 4 is to make sure, firstly, you have travel insurance, but then also read the fine print of your travel insurance, because a lot of companies actually do not cover war situations, and you might not be able to get a refund after you book your trip. So just make sure that you choose a insurance company that does either include the war, or just read the fine print first.
And another thing on that is if your flight does get cancelled, some travel insurance companies are obliged to rebook you on another flight. So maybe instead of getting a refund, you send them the details to another route. So then they'll just switch you to that and you don't have to pay the excess. Number 5, and we already kind of mentioned this, is ask other travelers what they're actually experiencing before you make any decisions, book any flights. That's when you're going to get the real on the ground reports, and it's going to help you a bunch.
Number 6, just make sure that you maybe have a few days on either side. If you're, rushing back home and you have to get back to work, give yourself a little bit of flexibility. Maybe choose, like when you're booking Airbnbs or things like that, choose places that you can get a refund and not have to lose out on money because things are delayed.
And number 7 is consider this a blessing. There are going to be fewer tourists around. So if you do get a flight and get out to these countries, you're going to have an awesome time with lesser crowds. And this doesn't happen very often, especially in peak season.
So the big question is, should you keep traveling? And our answer is yes, because we have, and we've been fine. Yes, we did experience menu shortages in Kerala. Yes, fuel was a little bit more expensive in Sri Lanka, and we're still unsure about the aviation going on here, but definitely worth it in our eyes.
And also consider that a lot of the destinations that we've been to run on tourism. So by going to these places, spending your hard-earned cash, eating out at local places, you're really supporting these communities that actually need it.
Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. If you have any questions, make sure you drop them below and make sure you hit that subscribe button to find out if we make it out of here.
Cheers, guys. See ya.